Yesterday we were discussing about the preparation of aldehydes and ketones, and we discussed up to carboxylic acids. So just let me revise on that. Last thing we discussed was how do we get aldehydes and ketones from carboxylic acid. One method what we saw was dry distillation, where if you take calcium salts of carboxylic acids on heating, carbon dioxide and calcium oxide will come out, and remaining would be a keto form, right? And we have seen that we need to have at least one alpha carbon for it to dissociate as carbon dioxide, otherwise reaction won't take place. Then we also checked out in the case of manganese oxide, a similar type of a reaction is observed where acids will dehydrate to give a manganese salt, manganese acetate salt, or manganese carboxylate salts, that on further heating, right, would give us the keto forms of it. That's how we were able to check it out. Okay, I hope you understood that part. Next, we discussed about dicarboxylic acids, right? Especially when you have 4 carbon or 5 carbon alkyl groups here, right? So you call this as adipic acid, remember? So that on heating would lose out carbon dioxide on forms the cyclic ketone. Same thing if you have a 7-membered carbon ring, that also on heating becomes a 6-membered ring. Usually this reaction doesn't take place more than 5 or less than 4. Okay, less than 4 we will have ester formations, that we will see it in the chapter of carboxylic acids. Right. Now coming for today's case here, now we will discuss about how we can get aldehydes and ketones through acid anhydrides. Acid anhydrides also on heating can release carbon dioxide and get the keto form of it. Just see the mechanism here. So in this you would observe that when it comes to hydride shift, here also you would see that first there will be a hydrogen which is protonation which is done, so OH would come here and this carbon would attack on this, so that there is a bond formation. Just like what we have seen in calcium salts, a similar thing happened here also, and you will get this cyclic transition state here, and from here on heating you would see the breaking of bond takes place simultaneously. Bond will break on this side and a bond will break on this side. So this part which is there, that would become carbon dioxide, and rest all part will get connected to form the enol. So you could see here an enol form is seen. So once you get an enol on tautomerism, we will get this as a keto form. So similar reaction what we have seen in acids is observed with acid anhydrides also on heating. Okay. First let me finish all of the reactions, then I will give you time for writing. Next let us see from esters. From esters how this reaction will take place. In case of esters, what's happening? We can first use one way of getting aldehydes or ketones is by diol H. Okay, diol H is diisobutyl isobutyl alkyl hydride. So this is diiso diol H. When you take esters and treat that with diol H and hydrolyze, we will get aldehydes. Let us see the mechanism for the same. First, the lone pair from oxygen will attack on the empty orbitals of aluminium. As it attacks, we will get this complex here, and now this hydride which is present will make a bonding with carbon. Again, these steps are not very much important. All you need to know that this hydride which is there is being shifted onto carbon, right? So now we know that this carbon has this hydride now, and oxygen will take away its electrons and forms this stable complex. Now this complex, if you see, it is actually OR and more like OH. Instead of H there is an Lewis acid, correct? So this is like an hemiacetal. And at lower temperature, especially at around minus 78 degrees, this anhydride, this hemiacetal form is stable. And since this is being stable, now we will make sure that all the molecules, all the uh, esters will form this first. Once that all has been formed, then we hydrolyze. Now on hydrolysis, we will see the reaction will take such a way that first this water would attack on aluminium here because it has an empty orbital. Got it? Now as soon as it attacks, OH2 has joined here with aluminium getting minus charge, OH2 getting plus charge here, right? So which means bond breaking will take place here. So oxygen will try to become double bond here. Now in here, when you see OH2 is present, from here to here there is a proton transfer, correct? From OH2 plus to R dash OH, there is a proton transfer. See, proton transfer will always happen towards the leaving side. Water is in excess, so here from whatever the proton which is remained here, it will move on to the side where it is leaving. So R dash O will be leaving, so proton will come on R dash OH here, and it becomes a good leaving group now. So this will close as a double bond and ROH would leave. So this bond will break here. So aluminium will end up having this OH, and then we will have RC double bond OH. So if you see that, this is the same hydride which was coming from aluminium, from dibalH. Okay, I hope all of you got that. Further reaction will also take place. This ROH again attacks here, leaves away water, correct? But that is irrelevant for us. For us, the idea is whether an aldehyde is forming or not. So you could see this is the important part, that this hemiacetal which is forming is stable at lower temperatures, which is the reason for all the aldehyde, all the ester to first come into the formation of hemiacetal, then and only then we will do hydrolysis. Okay. Next, let us see how the reaction takes place with acyl halides. So here what we saw how the reaction is taking from esters, correct? Now let's see how it is taking from acyl halides. Acyl halides, one of the important reaction is Rosenmund's reduction. What is Rosenmund's reduction? If we take H2 and treat that with acyl chlorides in the presence of palladium and poisoning that with quinoline or xylene or sulfur, you can poison that with any of that in the presence of barium sulfate. So poisoning as in, first we will add barium sulfate powder onto the palladium, and then we'll pour this solution. So the pores of palladium will be less and they will not be sufficient enough to give an sp3 carbon adsorption. So RC double bond O on reaction with H2, one of the hydride will transfer here and it will become RC double bond OH. Okay. So no specific mechanism is needed, just the statement is important here, that the hydrogen gas which is passed through acid chloride in the presence of palladium barium sulfate, that results in aldehyde formation. The palladium is initially used and regenerated. Okay, through the mechanism it is used and regenerated. Got it? So wherever you see acid chlorides in the presence of H2 and palladium barium sulfate, make sure you convert that into aldehydes. Okay. Second, for acid chlorides, we could use lithium tert butoxide hydride also. Okay. So you can see this is tritert butoxide hydride, which is similar to that of dibalH. The role is quite similar to that of dibalH. How the dibalH has been seen, we will see the similar reaction here also. Let's see how the reaction takes place. So from here you can see this hydride will shift, okay, because aluminium, if you check out, it is already, aluminium already has, this is Li plus and A minus. So basically this Li plus will appear here just to increase the electrophilicity of carbon, then hydride will shift on to that. So once the hydride has shifted there, sorry, once the hydride has shifted there, we can see that as O minus. This will close as double bond, Cl will leave, and we will get this as aldehyde form. So that is the use of lithium tert butoxide hydride. So we have seen two things: Rosenmund reduction, reduction with lithium aluminum tert butoxy, tri-tert butoxide. Next, Dibal H. Same reaction can be seen with Dibal H also, as long as we keep it at lower temperature. Okay, this we have done before also. I'm just writing it here just to make sure you recall that. Acid chlorides, Dibal H minus 78 degrees, we will get aldehydes. Next, using Grignard's reagent. Using Grignard's reagent also we would be able to get ketones, but ketones are further reactive, right? So because ketones doesn't stop here and they can further react with RMGX, so reaction will go towards the formation of alcohol, so it would be difficult to stop at this position. One way we can slightly increase the concentration of ketone is to take acid chlorides in excess. When we take this in excess, we will have limited amount of R dash MgX, so we might get sufficient amount of ketones. This is one way, right? This type of a reaction is called inverse addition. See, in inverse addition, what are we expected? That we take Grignard's reagent and add drop by drop, right? So very limited amount. So as you add drop by drop, we will be able to increase the concentration of ketones, right? So this is called inverse addition. So drop by drop addition of RMGX, right, to the pot containing RC double bond OCl at lower temperature, right, and constant stirring will produce the ketone as the main product. This is one way we can use Grignard's reagent and produce ketones through acid chlorides. Okay. Now this is an important concept behind RMGX, how it reacts with acid chlorides and ketones. Got it? Everybody just focus this carefully. Our main observation here is how how RMGX reacts in acid chlorides and ketones. See, with acid chlorides, RMGX is not a very good way of preparing ketones, as ketones are more reactive than acid chlorides only towards RMGX, not in all the cases, only in the case of RMGX. Let us see why that happens. Here if we check out in RMGX, what we are doing, we are adding this R minus here, right, and you will get O minus. So basically we are breaking one pi bond, and making one sigma bond, right. So just check this out, we are breaking one pi bond and making one sigma bond. So overall heat, if you check out here, less energy is required. But in the case of acid chlorides, when you treat RMGX, what we are expecting, first an SNTD type of mechanism will happen and immediately chlorine will leave, so that we will get the formation of ketone. Okay. So here we will observe that we are breaking this sigma bond only and again making a new sigma bond, correct? And that sigma bond also, which has, you know, some resonance stabilization with C double bond Cl. Right, it is totally agreed with the fact that the delta positive of acid chlorides is more as compared to that of delta positive of carbonyl carbon on ketones. But if you see the overall energy wise, then this is completely a sigma bond formation, while acid chlorides to form ketones, it is more like a sigma bond is broken and sigma bond is formed. So overall heat wise, we can say here more energy is required. So at lower temperatures, we will always see that ketones are more reactive as compared to that of acid chlorides only with RMGX. Remember that, okay? Only in the case of RMGX we will see this. Got it? Now, how that would be useful? In case if you really want to end up at ketones, So instead of using RMGX, we will go for an alternative. Got it? What are the alternatives? We will go for organometallic compounds which are relatively less reactive as compared to that of RMGX. Okay, for example, R2CD, R2ZN, they will result only in ketones and further addition is prohibited or further addition doesn't take place. Okay. For instance, if you take this acid chloride, react that with R2CuLi. You remember Gilman's reagent? Just add copper halide to that. You will get R2CuLi complex, R2CD complex, R2ZN complex. So all of this, see cadmium, copper 2 plus, zinc 2 plus will have high polarizing power. So they will hold the alkyl strongly by covalent bonds. Okay. Therefore, they will end up only at keto forms. Now, why they are not going further? First of all, their reactivity is less, and their reactivity depends upon how good delta positive carbon it is. Now, if you see between acid chlorides and ketones, how do we decide? Acid chlorides will have better than ketones. Why it is? Check out the reason. Because the minute we add R2CD or the minute we add R2ZN, the lone pair present on chlorine will make a complex type of a formation here, and this will increase because there is a strong minus I group minus I withdrawing group here. This will increase the delta positive and C double bond O. Okay, so let me just mention that delta positive on C double bond O carbon increases, and that increases the reactivity towards R2ZN. Okay, so if you take R2ZN, R2CD or R2CuLi, all of this would be more reactive for acid chlorides than RMGX. Next, we will see the preparation from beta ketones. Beta keto acids, when you take beta keto acids on heating, we will get keto forms and carbon dioxide will be released. Okay. This comes with the fact that when you have beta ketone, we will always see a hydrogen bonding with the acid here. You can see we can have a 6-membered chelation and hydrogen bonding present with this acid group C double bond O COH. Okay. Now when you heat this, bonds will start breaking. So we would see this pi bond will shift as a sigma bond with oxygen and hydrogen. This bond will break to double bond here, and this carbon-carbon bond will break to make double bond here. So therefore we would get this as enol form and carbon dioxide is released. CO2 is released. And this enol form tautomerizes to give keto. Okay. So this way you can get beta keto acids. Got this? Any doubt on that? Now, if you see the similar case, beta keto esters. So instead of acids, if I take esters, right? In esters, there is no hydrogen to make any hydrogen bonding. Okay. So this was a previous IIT question where it was asked like what would happen to the final product in this. And this is a very typical style of asking the question where a beta keto ester is given and then we treat that with some alkoxide, react that with RX and then hydrolyze it. Got it? And after hydrolysis we will heat it. So this is a common sequence of frequently asked questions. Check out in this sequence how do we solve it. First of all, you know that there is an active methylene group here. You have learned this during the tautomerism also. When you have a beta keto ester, you will have an active methylene group here. The pK value is around 11. So when you take an alkoxide which is a strong base, it would interact with the proton or it will take away that proton here and creates this carb anion. So this would become a good nucleophile which if you expose it to any RX will attack through SN2 mechanism. So through SN2 mechanism this R would get substituted and once you have that we will hydrolyze it, correct? So on hydrolysis, ester hydrolysis will happen, which means this ester will get back to the formation of acid and alcohol. The alcohol which is left out is ETOH. Now what we got is an acid with a keto group, correct? So we have now a beta keto acid, and we know that beta keto acids on heating, this entire carbon dioxide part will leave, and this hydrogen will get connected here and forms enol. From enol we will get the keto form, carbon dioxide is released. So it's a very typical way of asking the question. So the final product would be this, double bond O and R plus CO2. So in case of carbonyl compounds, we always have these two bond angles. One is alpha, which is a bond angle between the alkyl group carbon and oxygen. The other one between two alkyl groups here. Okay. And because of the pi bond present on one side, right? So the alpha value would usually be greater than that of beta. Okay. So no matter how bulky groups here, we usually see alpha is greater than that of beta. And if you consider this beta angles will have slightly increasing as you have more and more bulkiness seen. So which means if you compare these bond angles, as the bulkiness increases, the bond angle increases between carbon, carbon and carbon, right? So that's how the bond angle increases. Now when we see the carbonyl structure, we have carbon oxygen bond here, right, which is mostly towards oxygen, okay, because of its electronegativity, as well as if you see the pi bond which has formed will have more electron cloud density towards oxygen, okay. So that uneven cloud distribution will create that delta positive and delta negative, right, on carbon and oxygen. Structurally, if you check out, if C double bond O is one canonical and this C single bond O with positive and negative with the other canonical, obviously this has more contribution. But if you see the hybrid, it would have delta positive and delta negative, which means, right, it is almost like a dipolar, not completely dipolar, but almost like a dipolar group, which shows high polar nature due to its delta positive and oxygen with delta negative. And because there is high polarity between carbon and oxygen, all carbonyl compounds will show significant dipole moment as well. So if you see more alkyl groups are increasing, the dipole moment will increase. For example, if you check out the dipole moment here, okay, the dipole moment between carbon and oxygen in formaldehyde, right, so is found to be around 2.3 dB units. But if you see the same thing with alkyls, if you have two alkyl groups here, the dipole moment here was found to be around 2.8 D, which means due to the plus I effect of this methyl groups, there is a dipole which is created on this end and this end. So that would also get added to the dipole moment of carbon and oxygen. So that's why the dipole moment of ketones would usually be more than that of aldehydes. Okay, students. How would that help? Because if you comparing the dipole moment, we will be able to compare the boiling point as well. So if you consider these three, right, formaldehyde, normal aldehyde and keto forms, okay, then you would see the dipole moment of the third one will be greater than the second one and the first one, which means aldehydes will always have high boiling point as compared to that of ketones, okay. And aldehydes and ketones will always have more boiling point compared to that of any alkyl halides, if you consider any Rx here of comparable molar masses, right, or any hydrocarbon, if you compare any hydrocarbon or alkyl halides of comparable molar masses. Aldehydes and ketones are highly polar, but their polarity is not sufficient enough as compared to that of alcohols or acids. So if you consider any alcohols, right, or acids of comparable molar masses, then alcohols and acids will definitely have more amount of acids here will have more amount of boiling point as in compare with the aldehydes and ketones. That possibly because of the strong intermolecular hydrogen bonding established between alcohol in alcohols and acids. So overall, if you observe carboxylic acids, these are all about comparable molar masses. Carboxylic acids usually will have more boiling point than alcohols, then ketones, aldehydes, ethers and regular hydrocarbons. Now if I give you any of these three categories, for example, I have to compare keto with an aldehyde, so of a comparable molar masses, then ketones will have more boiling point. Okay. Alcohols with any keto form, then alcohols will have more. Okay. Ketones with ethers, if you compare, then ketones would usually have more boiling point. Okay. So these are when you have a comparable molar masses. This is about the physical properties of aldehydes and ketones. Now coming to the chemical properties, especially when it comes to carbonyl compounds, the reactivity is mostly nucleophilic addition. Most of the reactions are nucleophilic addition, which is evident with the fact that carbon will have delta positive and oxygen will have delta negative, which means this reaction can be initiated by two ways. One, first an electrophile getting attached on oxygen, then a nucleophile is attacking on carbon. This is one route. Second route is directly nucleophile attacking on carbon, and second step electrophile is attacking on oxygen. Both ways the reaction will take place. Okay, let me show you how. First, if you check out the case 1, where first electrophile is added, for example H plus, which means in acidic medium, you would see the first step would be electrophilic addition. So oxygen will take away that proton and get added, and in turn increases the delta positive charge on carbon. So the second step would be nucleophilic addition. Okay. The sp2 hybridized carbon now has converted into an sp3 hybridized carbon. This type of a addition mechanism is called SNTD, correct? But SNTD is only when you have substitution. That means when you have double bond O formed and nucleophile is added, then OH minus has left, correct? So it is SNTD type. So basically where we have seen that from sp2 it is converting into an sp3 carbon. Now what you will observe, first is an acid base reaction, so it would be fast. But the nucleophilic addition depends upon lot of characteristics, what kind of a aldehyde or ketone it is, how strong delta positive it is. So that's why this would become the rate determining step. So this would always be rate determining step. Okay. We would usually see this type of a mechanism when our nucleophile is weak, like you are adding water. Water is a weak nucleophile. So in that case, it will always be added in the second step. So first some acid catalyzation will help so that oxygen will take away that proton and then water will attack on it. This is case 1. Case 2, when the nucleophile is strong, you can see when the nucleophile which we are taking is strong, then nucleophile itself will attack first. So which means the nucleophile itself will attack here, oxygen will take away its electrons. Again from sp2 the carbon is converted to sp3, and this would be the slow step here. Second step is the acid base reaction where O minus will take away the H plus either from the water or from the acidic medium which you provide, and it will form this product. Got it? So you need to be careful, like in which case what type of a mechanism to be adopted. If it is weak nucleophilic case, then case 1 is more feasible. Strong nucleophilic case, case 2 is more feasible. Now what are the factors that affect this reactivity? How we can increase the rate, or how the rate is getting affected? Let us see that. Okay. One thing, if you observe carefully, whether it is an first electrophilic addition, next nucleophilic addition, or first nucleophilic addition, then electrophilic addition, in both the cases, the nucleophilic addition is the rate determining step. You can see here also it is the RDS, here also this is the RDS. Okay. So either of the mechanisms, we will always see rate determining step is nucleophilic addition. So what are the factors that affects this reactivity, which means how we can increase, or what are the factors which will inhibit the better addition of nucleophile? First thing is the structure, how bulky it is, what charge carbon carries. So bulkiness and electronic factors are one important case. Second thing, how acid or base catalyzed it is, whether the reaction is in acidic medium, whether the reaction is in basic medium. Next, the nature of nucleophile being strong or weak. So these are the factors which affect the rate of reaction on nucleophilic addition on aldehydes and ketones. Okay. So, during the transition state, what is happening? Let us see that. In the nucleophilic addition, in the transition state, this Y minus is attacking on carbon. Whether you take acid catalyzed or base catalyzed, I am only concerned about the nucleophilic addition step because that is the rate determining step. So, when that happens here in this transition state, if you observe what we are getting this sp3 hybridized carbon, right. So, we are getting this sp3 intermediate. Okay. So, on top of that, if you see O minus is a donating group, R is a donating group from both the ends, got it? That will destabilize the transition state. So, if you have too many donating species on carbon, it will destabilize that, got it? Then it will take H plus and it would become a product like this. So, in short, in the transition state, if there are any withdrawing groups here, that might increase the reactivity, that might increase the rate. But if you are donating species, it might decrease the rate. Okay. So, what you will observe, that rate of addition to be reduced by electron donating groups and enhanced by electron withdrawing groups. Suppose if I have to make the reaction on this ketone, right. So, what we are expecting is that a nucleophile should come and attack here. If this X is NO2, hydrogen or OMe, how does the rate depend upon? So, you can see NO2 would have more rate compared to that of hydrogen than OMe. Because more withdrawing the groups it is, the transition state here you can see this would become more stable. Okay. So, this is one important factor you need to remember. So, now another thing is, if there is any conjugation with C double bond O, suppose like in this case we have C double bond C, C double bond O, they are in conjugation like this. Same way in benzaldehyde, this pi bond is in conjugation. In the conjugation, the pi bond support on the carbon will increase the electron density. So, this will become electron rich carbon. So, its delta positive will decrease. So, nucleophilic attack would be slower. So, the reactions would be slower when you have a conjugated double bond on C double bond O. Okay, students. So, you can check this out. First, between these two, it is the crowding. Okay, you can see we have crowding as well as this CH3 is donating. At least this hydrogen is not donating. So, this would have more faster rate as compared to that of this aldehyde. Now, if you see this aldehyde, this also has, right, resonance stabilization here. So, C double bond O H with this pi bond. So, this pi bond is always resonance stabilized. So, the nucleophilic addition would be very slow. So, that is why you would see the rate would be in this form. So, this is the reactivity of nucleophile. Okay. Same is the case here. If you check out, there are two methyl groups, they are giving only plus I effect, plus I. From here also it is giving plus I. Here it is giving plus I. Here it is giving plus R, right? And here it is giving plus R, and here it is giving plus R. At the same time, you will see phenyls, as they keep coming, and this is a planar molecule, right? In a planar molecule, phenyl will act like a bulky group as well. So, which means both ways it is not good. One, it is trying to stabilize this carbon, so its reactivity is less. Second, it is also occupying a lot of space here, so it is giving a steric hindrance for the nucleophile to approach. Correct? So, both this above category and this category, this is about all aldehydes kind, this is about ketokines. In this, if you see the rate, this is how the rate is varying, right? So, both the factors are considered here, both steric factor as well as electronic factor is considered, and based on that, this would be the general reactivity of aldehydes and ketones. And any aldehyde, suppose if you compare these two, right, any aldehyde is always better than that of ketone. Got it? So, if you compare this one and this one, that is something which will in the next thing I have written, I guess, yeah, I have written it here itself. You can check it out. No, I have written a little bit later, I guess. So, there you would see that if you compare an aldehyde Okay, if you compare an aldehyde with a ketone, we'll always make sure the aldehyde will have more reactivity. Okay. Now here you would see that it is C2H5 while this is PC double bond O, which means it is a phenyl group. So it should be more reactive here. So you can see the resonance would have more impact, the conjugation will have more impact to decrease the rate. So you will have this as the more reactivity. Okay. Now when it comes to steric factor, how do we need to check this concern? In steric factor, what you will observe, see when it comes to C double bond O, watch this carefully now. This is how the bond is, this is a cloud which you have, got it? And this carbon would have a pi star orbital somewhere here, like this would be the pi star orbital. And that is the LUMO orbital for us, where a nucleophile can attack. Okay, so that is the least energy demanding direction of approach for the nucleophile. So nucleophile can attach from get attacked from this end. But what you would observe, right? What our assumption would be like, okay, maybe when the nucleophile is approaching, it may be almost perpendicular like this, but it is not completely perpendicular, correct? It would be with a certain it would be with certain angle here. So in fact, if we check out the incoming nucleophile here, either from the top or from the bottom, when the nucleophile approaches, if it come with an angle of 107 degrees and not 90 degrees, and the reason for this is the pi electron density which is present here. So that will make the repulsion for the incoming nucleophile. So it has to come, you know, with certain angle here. So which means you can see how sensitive this becomes, because this R and nucleophile will become quite closer. And because they are very close to that, the steric factor becomes very sensitive here. So even a small increase in the steric factor, you know, drastically decrease the rate. Got it? I hope you understood why nucleophile is approaching not at 90 degrees. Second, why steric factor is a very sensitive issue in aldehydes and ketones. I hope all of you got that. Okay. Therefore, I can say that increasing any bulky group, right, will slow the reaction, because the sp2 carbon which is present is converting into sp3, and the transition state would become unstable. So you can see that if you have four groups here, suppose this is a nucleophilic group O minus, and we have R1 and R2. So if this R1 and R2 becomes bulky, right, it becomes unstable transition state here. Okay. So that's what I have written here. So based on that, you can see the rate will always be in this order. So both steric factors, electronic factors will give a lot of impact on nucleophilic addition. Okay. Now when you compare, like I said, if you compare aldehydes and ketones, generally aldehydes will be more reactive even if you have a conjugation. So if this was the order, you need to check, even in the case of conjugation, this is how it will vary. Okay guys. Then after I send you the notes, you can note it down. So when cyanide is been attacking as a nucleophile on these aldehydes or ketones, right, what is the equilibrium constant which has been seen? So which means in the forward direction. So you could see aldehydes with withdrawing groups. You can see aldehydes with withdrawing groups will always increase the rate. Okay. And aldehydes with donating group are decreasing the rate. Ketones are very slow. Okay. And if you have almost this two phenyl groups, hardly the reaction will take place. Okay. So if you have general ketones here, they are relatively better than that of, you know, benzyl forms. Got it? I guess that is clear. Now if you check out in the case of CH3CHO, it is almost coming 10 raised to power of 4. That's very large. So the reaction will happen at a much better rate here for simple aldehydes. So this is a very important information, not that you have to remember, but this gives us a lot of insight about how the simple alkyl groups, alkyl aldehydes are highly reactive towards nucleophilic. As it becomes phenylic, which means with conjugation, relatively the rate is decreasing, okay, and by the time you reach towards ketones, the rate is very less. I hope that point is clear. Right. Okay. So when you take Cn minus as an addition here, that is what we have observed, that this nucleophile attacking here and this type of a complex is forming, for which we have been checking what would happen to the equilibrium constant. Second case is when you take the nucleophile adding on C double bond O, but the nucleophilic size is an important influence. Okay. Here Cn minus is very small, so that is not impacting, it is only the electronic effect which is what we are observing. But here if the nucleophile is also bulky or nucleophile is bigger size, then what would happen? Like in the case of sulfides, SO3 minus, right, is a sulfide ion and it is a bulky nucleophile. So when it attacks on the nucleophile, when it attacks on the double bond O here, it would be very slow and selective. Why that will be slow and selective? Check it out. We have experimentally it has been seen that only on regular aldehydes or methyl ketones, okay, important point here is that it is methyl ketones. Only in the case of methyl ketones we observed this reaction is happening, okay, but otherwise if you see all of these cases, even if you have methyl with tert butyl on one side, the reaction doesn't take place. Even with two phenyl groups, impossible. If you have one phenyl, one CH3, still it is not going to happen. Got it? So all of these cases will not have any reaction. Even if you take any other ketones, double bond O like this, or if you take C double bond O like this, all of these compounds do not give reaction with bulky groups like SO3 minus. This is normally asked as an integer type question where you would be given a compounds and you need to judge which one will give you the sulfide ion reaction. Okay. So check out if you have normal alkyl groups, like if you have this kind of a group, I have double bond O and CH3. Yes, this can give because it is a methyl simple keto form. All aldehydes will give, so there is no problem with aldehydes. Okay. But in the case of ketones, only methyl with simple groups will give. Methyl with bulky tert will also not give, methyl with phenyl will also not give. And rest all which is not methyl like ethyl, isopropyl, right? All of this will not give you the reaction as well. None of this will give. This will be given. Okay. So please judge on accordingly. Like if at all you are reacting with bulky groups like sulfite ion, which would give this reaction. Okay. Now, if we consider the rate of reactions, these are the type of questions that could be asked. So how do we need to check out on the rate? Let's see. If you consider these three, all three are aldehydes. In case of aldehydes, the electronic effect becomes very important rather than the bulkiness. So if you see, bulkiness will be relatively less dominant as compared to that of electronic effect. That's why if you see CF3, it is highly withdrawing group by minus I. This is also withdrawing by minus I. So because of this, the delta positive on this carbon will increase. So we can say that this would be more reactive as compared to that of CCl3 and formaldehyde. Okay. So next one, between CH3 and PH3, again electronic effect we need to check it out, and this is giving Plessar effect and this is only giving Plessar effect. So you can see that reactivity would be better for this one. If you consider an aldehyde and a ketone, we have just seen the experimental data also that aldehydes are better. Okay. Next, See this case, if you have an open chain, if you have an open chain and a closed chain here, right? What happens in ring carbon, electrons are being held back, groups are being held back, those carbons are held back, so which will leave sufficient amount of crowding, sufficient amount of space here for nucleophile to approach. And just now we have learned that nucleophile will approach at an angle of 107 degrees. So cyclic would help rather than an open chain. Okay. So we will see cyclic would be more reactive as compared to that of open chain. I hope all of you got this. In short, this is the way we say it, that carbon is more exposed for nucleophile to approach. Okay. So that carbonyl carbon is more exposed so that nucleophile can easily approach. Next type of ketone, if you have both cyclic, then you have to check out the angle strain. Suppose this is cyclobutane, this is cyclohexane case. Here there is hardly any angle strain, almost this would be 120 degrees only. But here this is an angle strain, right? So here if you consider this and this, there is an angle strain in cyclobutyl case here, cyclobutanone, right? So which would be more reactive in this case? This would be more reactive because it already has an angle strain with sp2, and after the reaction it can become sp3 and release that angle strain. So that's why cyclobutanone would be more reactive. Now if you compare cyclopentanone and hexanone, now suddenly this is the exception which you will see, that cyclohexanone is more reactive as compared to cyclopentanone. Okay, because when it comes to angle strain in both of them, there is hardly much of a difference. In fact, both of them will have very negligible angle strain. Okay, but here cyclohexanone would be more reactive, because when it comes to cyclopentanone, as the hybridization goes from sp2 to sp3, right, it would still have torsional strain existing, or torsional strain will increase. Got it? Let me explain you how. Suppose, think this way, if you have a C double bond O case, correct? So in the adjacent position here, whatever the hydrides which are there are two hydrogens here, correct? They are almost at the bisecting position with respect to C double bond O. Now as in when the nucleophile approaches that C double bond O, right, the final product which you will get will be more of an eclipsed form. So this O minus with this hydrogen, this H with nucleophile, this will be an eclipsed form. But in the case of cyclohexanone, you will see it will be axial and equatorial. So in the case of cyclopropanone, cyclopentanone, as the nucleophile approaches here, correct, we can see it would have an eclipsed form. So this increases the torsional strain. So that's why if you see that, this statement justifies that. So cyclohexanone would be more reactive than cyclopentanone, and same is the case with cycloheptanone also. That means that would also be less reactive than cyclohexanone. In cyclohexanone, in the chair form, once it becomes sp3, it will have least amount of strain here. Got it? So they will get adjusted such a way that if this is nucleophile, this is O minus and H, so their repulsions would be very less here. Got that? Next case. Okay, right. Now let's see this, how the hydration happens here. I hope all of you understood this case. What happened? Any doubt here? Okay. Now when the nucleophilic addition reactions had to be done, we will go one by one, first starting with hydration. What happens in the case of hydration? Hydration can be done in both acidic medium as well as basic medium. So even if you have H plus been added and then OH added, or first OH minus added then H plus added, we have seen both mechanisms happening. But in both the cases, nucleophilic addition is always the rate determining step. So we will get, the product would always be geminal diols. So we will have OH and OH. So geminal diols are formed. And this happens in both acidic and basic medium. Let me show you the mechanism how it takes place. So focus on that. Suppose if you have C double bond O, H with OH minus. First I am doing with basic medium. OH minus is a strong nucleophile. So first step itself will be the rate determining step. So you will have this as RCO minus H and OH. Then on hydrolysis, oxygen will take this proton and it will become COH, H and OH. Now in general what you will see, aldehydes and ketones are more reactive, right? Aldehydes and ketones would be more stable as compared to that of their respective hydrate. Okay, so this is called as hydrate. We call it as hydrate of carbonyl compound. Usually hydrates are unstable, so they would immediately go back. So that's why this is an equilibrium reaction. Got it? But there are certain hydrates which will be stable as well. Okay, first let me show the mechanism in acidic medium also. In acidic medium, first C double bond OH. The minute we have an electrophile, first this acid base would happen, and that increases the delta positive on carbon. Now the water would attack as a nucleophile. We will get this as RCOH H and OH2 plus. These are also reversible steps, and then deprotonation will take place. Get this as RCOH H and OH. This is also an hydrate. So in both the cases, the hydrate which is formed is usually unstable and the reaction will always go in the backward direction. But there are few stable hydrates as well. So when you are checking, there are certain stable hydrates. Let us focus on that. First one, HCHO. So in case of HCHO, if you check out the hydrate, we'll have H, C, OH, H and OH. See, H and H are not bulky groups. So that is not going to impact that OH and OH again has to interact with each other and come out as water. So that is why the hydrate of HCHO4 can exist. Got it? In fact, water, pure water is stored in HCHO in the form of formalin. Formalin, especially used during the surgeries. When you need pure water during surgeries, formalin is used. Now, same way if you check out CH3CHO, okay, that is not a very stable hydrate. CH3C double bond of CH3, the minute it becomes a keto form, hardly there would be any hydrate existing, reaction would be mostly backwards. But if you see withdrawing group CF3, you can see CF3 is a strong withdrawing group that will increase the characteristic and therefore the reaction will go forward, and hydrates are very stable. This comes with the fact that they can make hydrogen bonding. Check out CF3, CF3 are present, then they can make hydrogen bonding with the hydrate form, right? So due to the hydrogen bonding, these hydrates are very stable. So if you check out CF3CHO, CCl3CHO, this is called chloral. Okay, so chloral. So the hydrate of chloral is also very stable. If you have CF3 on both the sides, then the hydrate would be even more stable. Okay. So for example, if you have this is chloral and this is called hydrate of chloral or chloral hydrate, and this would be stable because of the hydrogen bonding. It's here. Okay, I hope all of you understood that. No, definitely there are certain cases where hydrate is stable. Yes. Next case, if you check out cyclopropanone, if you check out, just give me another 2 minutes, let me finish hydrate part of it. So if you take C double bond O and then when you add water in acidic medium or basic medium, then we will get a hydrate here. Got it? So we will get this as OH and OH. Now check what happened. Initially it was sp2 hybridized, huge strain, correct? Now it has become sp3 hybridized, strain released. Okay, so when angle strain has released, then the reaction will favor in the forward direction. That's why this is the hydrate is stable. So in cyclopropanone also we can get a hydrate, and that can be isolated. So isolatable hydrate is formed here. Next, another important case is ninhydrin. This structure is called ninhydrin. Okay. So ninhydrin, when you react that with H2O in the presence of H plus or OH minus, got it? With only water, the reaction is very slow. So any catalytic hydration will help better. Here also you can see at this carbon, if H plus and OH minus will get added up, so we will get hydrogen bonding here as well on both the sides. So this hydrate is even more stable, got it? So this is called the hydrate of ninhydrin, okay? And it is used to test the proteins, guys. We will learn this in biomolecules. If there is any protein and we add ninhydrin, it will form a hydrate, and hydrate will be violet color. So that's how we will detect there are some proteins present. Okay. Same way, diphenyl propane trione. Check out, if you have 3 one groups here, same thing, the center one would become a hydrate here in the presence of H plus or OH minus. Now that would make a hydrogen bonding here like this. Okay. So judge the cases carefully. In which type of cases, you know, in exam you can make a lot of cases like this, correct? If you have any cases like this, here there could be any groups, maybe here CH3, NO2, any of the groups, their hydrate will be stable as long as we have groups like this. See here also, whether it is in a closed chain or an open chain, we can always be able to get the stable hydrate form. Okay. So judge accordingly and see which are the stable hydrate formations.